All right. So, welcome to our final GT Tuesday, and this one is basically about. Um, I can do this in two ways. I'm going to figure out what to play today uh, with Zoom and all of its capabilities and PowerPoint. Um, but today we are talking about. I'm going to give you a little update on the where we are with the certification process and then kind of get into as we right now where we're all thinking of what are our next steps. Kind of talk about identification, your program services, thinking about peak professional development. Give you a little update on the virtual showcase for TPSP, and then kind of open it up for your suggestions and some of the ideas I've thought about GT Tuesday and those options as we go forward. So make sure I'm there. Got the picture here. This is our wellness check. Everybody's doing good. Uh, Anyone want to share what's going on well and good in their community and in high school graduates out there? Um,
So Forney ISD actually gets to host our graduation at the brand new Globe Life Field.
ooh, all right.
It's very exciting.
Go ahead. All right, for the Gold Life Field. Okay. Anybody else? Any exciting news? Any college graduates out there? Okay, Mansfield's going to Globe. Is doing going. Are you going to Globe Life also? Yes. All right. Um,
Monica, no graduates, but I've been sitting in on some first grade and third grade TPSP showcases. Had some awesome little first graders this morning, and they did a great job. And it was just really awesome to see them push through, even through the whole remote learning process, that they completed those and were able to Zoom with us this morning and present to their peers.
Good. That's marvelous. Good to hear. You know, little kids like to share, and it takes it back to you know, just letting them be out, have that opportunity just to talk and to share what they know. I love it. I love it. Um, I don't know if I've announced. And no, I have no children. I have nephews. I have two. The oldest is working on being a technology specialist, internet security. But the youngest is a football player, was at Texas State, and now he has signed as a free agent with the Tennessee Titans. So he will be going next week to Tennessee for his first, meeting and things of that sort. So that's where we are there. So we'll see how football career goes. Boys in sports. But otherwise, we're all good. My mother will be having her 80th birthday next year, y'all. So next week. Next week is her 80th birthday, so that's our exciting piece of news. Um, so it's all good around here, and it's sunny in Texas. It's hot in Texas, but sunny and warm. But we can live. All right, so we are good. All right. So I'm working these two screens are not working for me today, but just wanted to highlight to remind you that the COVID-19 guidance is out there. The same is constantly being updated. I would recommend that you review it at least once a week to see if there are any new updates, especially on the instructional continuity planning page, where you can find the Texas at Home Learning, and then a link to if you've been watching PBS, as like I have, our at home learning with PBS is being broadcasted there also. And then any updates coming out of special populations will be found on our SPED and special population site, and especially our GT as we go forward. And then always you can broadcast on your website and on your Facebook, on your Twitter feeds, on more information, especially as we think about going back to schools, that we need to make sure we're being healthy and clean and washing hands. And so just remind people, as we open back up the state of Texas, make sure we are being safe as we go forward. As you know, our state goal, and at this point in time, we've got those students who have shown and demonstrated their expertise. And as we get ready to move into our next phase of it, how do we look at this new realm that we're going to be in of how do we look at that self-directed learning, that thinking, that research in this new educational system? And I'm just going to, put it out there because it's going to look different. Sorry about that, y'all. As we move forward, because you're going to have kids and parents who you do not see my slides. Oh, so it'll help me if I will do screen share. All right. Got it now? Let me get the chat. Let me see if this works better now.
Got it. We can see it.
Marvelous. And let me open the chat to make sure I'm there. All right. Okay. So as we go forward, because this new realm of education is going to totally look different, at least for the next couple of years. Definitely next year as we think about it. I know the governor opened it up for summer school. School's going to be open, but a lot of us are going to go with these social distancing practices. How does that look? What do we do? How do we do that differently? And then we're also going to have to realize that even though if we do open the doors, there's going to be parents who say, no, I feel safer with my kid at home and then they're with you in the school building. So we got to look at how do we play the two fields and what do we do with the systems. And then with us being a special population and us being that one that most people will, either we're taken for granted or we're a last thought. And as the last thought is like, they'll catch it and they'll get it on their own, or we really don't have to think about them. We'll add them in at the very end. But then that leaves where our services are, what do our kids do? And our kids are some of the most vulnerable, the most empathetic, and most, tortured, and I will put it that way, when things are not happening in their realm of where they want to see. And then they're the most hurt by the fact that they can't get what they're looking for. They can't get the services that they are truly demanding and need. So we got to think, how can we get that done? And as we move forward. And so kind of that's our conversation for today. And I know a lot of, because we're all over the place here in the state of our small schools, our rural schools, our large metropolitan, but we all have the same issue of our program is always, it's a second thought and it's a wondering, but our kids need us to really think about how can we help them. All right, so as you know, this year was the first year with HB and looking at our numbers and having a district level code. And the codes have been cleaned and set up. And so I just wanted to share the numbers with you. So you have the codes here. Oh, let's go next slide. So before I share the codes, just a reminder is that your last reporting is going to be program intent code 21, where that's how you're tracking your funds, your report the use of funds. I know that some of you, your use of funds kind of went to the wayside or went to something different, but they used your funds, okay? Hopefully you had a say in how they use their funds, but we don't. So that's going to be the reporting in June on the use of funds. And so, and hopefully you had some kind of idea of how that funds was used and not as a definite. So question from the field is, okay, has a definite date been decided upon for district submitting a manual program guide to the commissioner? So the manual and program guide was is a district level program services, and that will be a part of the phase 2, which is next year, of how that will be put into place. And no, a definite date has not been decided, but we are working on the other pieces of that instrument, and that will either be a upload or a link to where you have it posted on your website. So um, you still have a little time if you're working on cleaning it up or you want someone to review it. You have questions about it. I've reviewed a couple. A parent actually sent me one with her comments the other day. So feel free to take this time to, if there's some things you're wondering about, things you want to add in, uh, take that time to do that. We will actually probably start sometime in September. But before we do start with that phase of it, we will have training and we will have a conversation on what we're looking for in the instrument. Um, so take a breather. It's not tomorrow. So as I said, here's our numbers. And as you see, we are pretty much as a state, um, a pull out program with a little bit of, so we're 43% pull out and then 33% full inclusion. Some I would say you might want to go and look into a report, especially because I pulled a couple of districts. If you can get into your systems, I went into TSDS and pulled out our report because like one large district, they only listed two options, which was pull out and full-time inclusion. But I know they have special day schools that are specifically for gifted, and I know that they have programs specifically all day for gifted that was not included in their report. So uh, never know if that was intentional or if that was a part of it. So when I found it under the PEAMS reporting. So if you have the opportunity to look at your TSDS PEAMS report for your district, if you can't find it, email me and I will send you yours because I can pull it individually. So just email me uh, and I'll show you my email at the end and then I will make sure. So yeah, because it's not a easy find and pretty soon I will have I'm finishing up cleaning up the report to include everyone. I have your district numbers on it, but I do not have your district names with it to clean up that report. So, so just wanted to remind you about the certification timeline. So as you know, we did that in August. We had school start. We implemented the state plan. We've been going through our series for implementation. We have been identifying students throughout. We did our district code in October. March 1st, most of us did our kinder services and identification. And if you did not, we are not penalizing anyone. We're not penalizing anyone with identification at this point in time. And then our final coding is PIC 21, which is this June. So hopefully we're going to be on track to keep going forward. So as we get into the next phase of this is looking at, as we think about next year and or this summer, when you're rolling back up, because I know some of you are actually in that conversation and that thought process. When we think about identification, and here's some things, some key considerations. Think about your test security, and what I mean by test security, there's a couple of things you have to look at is looking at your, how's it being administered? Is it being hacked? Or the parents taking the test or kids taking the test? And then when you think of your equity of assessment opportunities, I know that some of our vendors are providing the test as a at-home availability. But can you reach all the students that you need to reach in that platform? Or do you need to also think, is there an in-house version that we can get kids to come into for and a safety measure for that? So don't forget, when you're thinking of your testing, you have to make sure you're having an open window for all. Looking at the validity of your data, because I know that some of you, depending on when you were doing it, depends if you move it to the next school year, is it still valid or do you need to start? And it goes to number 4, also to reassess or use your spring results. Because kids, depending on the measures you're using, Kids do change age in that midst of that time. And so, but whatever you decide to do, be consistent in what you're doing. Um, be clear that everyone knows how you're going to roll it out and what your goals are in this process and how's it going to work. Good question, Debbie. And that is a concern. Debbie, if you look while following along in the chat, how can we be ensured that a parent isn't helping with the test taking? That is a wondering, especially if the parent does not pass, meet the score that you're looking for as a district. How can a parent can't appeal uh, at that point? But then, how do you, and if the kid, that's a good question, and that's wondering. Um, And then so that's a good question. So let's see, do we have to already have identified the student by March and serve them? So this year, it was a different change. If you had not, if you had identified them by March, no, you did not have, and really, only ones that says identified and served by March 1st is going to be your kinder. A lot of you with your first through 12, if you identify in that February timeframe when you're doing your kinder, you either wait or some of you go ahead and start servicing. I think you need to figure out, and that might be something to be very clear for in your program services, because a lot of us have gotten to that point of, well, what do we do? So you can wait to, if you're going to wait, you need to make sure that you are clear. I'm reading your second part of your question. If you wait, so you're going to have parents, and you need to be very clear that you're going to wait until the spring to do all of your testing. So there will be no kids starting services in August or September when you restart school. So be very clear in that communication to your parents. Because they're going to be the ones that's going to ask the most questions and wondering. And you can always put the rationale of, because of the pandemic and the closures of schools, you want to have an equal footing for all students and have a services that are based on what those teachers know and can say, not based on what are the wonderings. And so, because some of you may be looking at how do we reframe and rethink your identification process. So this is going to be one of those weird years, the next year, of how do we do this. Some of you will be doing resuming your assessments this summer, and then some will wait till the beginning of the school year. Either one is a okay option, and then some of you may decide and make sure you have your full administration's backing on, we're going to push it off to the spring. If you're going to push it off to spring, I really think you really need to make that totally communication to your parents so that they understand what's going on. And so the way it really should work, and I know this is the hard part, I'm looking at Bridget's statement. So once you identify, depending on where you are, elementary is a little easier to begin services at a certain point in time. Middle school, high school, we typically waited to either the next 6 weeks or the next semester, depending on when the testing was, so that you can schedule a kid into program services. So that's where it works. Now, a lot of elementary and program services, because you did your testing in March, April, some of you did not start services in April or May, you waited to the next school year. So that's where that local control comes in. So knowing what you're doing as a district and what your services are, being consistent with that. If you identified in February and you knew that you identified and started March 1st, the only reason why this year was kind of messed up because starting March 1st, you started putting kids in, and then we went on spring break, and then you pretty much did not go back to school. So you'd have that opportunity to start services but some of you were in the midst, so you don't have to take everyone out. It's like, do we furlough everyone? No, don't furlough anyone. Just work on how can you provide services. So So a couple other things, establish what your protocols will be for resuming this process. How you're going to, is it going to be, we got a couple of weeks, we're going to spread kids out that come in for testing. Think about how that online at home testing is going to work. How can you make sure the validity of it, um, you know, if you want to take that opportunity that is a local district is decision. Are you going to gather new data measures, or are you going to use what you have? Because some of you can just pick up from where you stopped and where you're going forward. Um, and then when you think about that, because you have to think about age and grade, just depending on the tools that you use. Um, and then what measures need to, you should remember we talked about earlier, documenting where you were in your process. And then, so just knowing where you're going to start up, where you're going from there, what those data sets are, what pieces you need to gather, what pieces that you have. Is it still a valid piece of data? Is it skewed based on someone else's perception at that time? Or is it still good? And then what are your new timelines as you complete your identification process? Are you going to do it in the summer, in the fall, and then how are you going to do appeals and what that communication is? And when will you start because we're still looking at the completion of somebody's identification. When will you start new identification? Because that's going to be the next question the parents are going to have. After they've been at home with their kids and they start seeing things and have a full new window of this is what my picture of what my kid looks like and what they can do. So what is your process? How are you going to roll that out for resuming and then for the new process as we go forward? And then with your selection committee, as you know, how are you meeting? Is it virtual? Is it face-to-face? Remember, we recommend at least a minimum of 3 people on the selection committee. So thinking how you're going to do that. What are your meeting protocols? How are you sharing that information? Remember, I talked about, locked spreadsheets. So how are you securing that data? If you got profiles or portfolios, what are they looking at? Are they doing blind voting? How are we doing advocacy for our students? What is your systems as you go forward? And I see a question popped up. Ooh. Yeah, I got some good questions today. So Sheila's question is, what happens to students who are identified in the fall but are placed in classes with non-trained teachers? Do they have to be reassigned to another class? And so here's the thing, as we go forward, at this point in time, so I guess I got to follow up. You said in the fall, so they're going back in the fall. So teachers are not going in being trained. So I will push for this summer is a prime opportunity for teachers to get trained because there's going to be virtual training pretty much everywhere, anywhere they can find it. But yes, if you reassign them on in the regular system and the regular brick and mortar, you might have to really think about how can you redo that, or you get their agreement that they get their training within that first semester. If you have to remember, we say within that first semester they get sometimes it's some actually I believe it's first 6 weeks. I got to find my state plan, but definitely in that first semester they got to get trained. You want your kids with a trained person. Let me go back to so blind voting. And blind voting means that they do not know what student is. They have no knowledge, so there's no student name, especially if you're doing a campus selection committee. They know who those children are. They know the names. They may not know the ID numbers, So that's basically what we mean about blind voting is they're looking at the profile. They're just looking at scores. They're looking at just the information and the data that's provided, but they have no name to associate with it. And they're either using your cutoffs or your systems for that to look at that student. And so that's what I mean by blind voting. Uh, and so basically, if they want, here's the thing. You're taking the name away is because either we're walking in with a bias and just say we're removing the bias. We'll talk about names and students after, if they want names, it can come afterwards. But the initial, as we look through it, this is where we're going. And we're looking at, especially, and so hey, you can always throw it back. The state says we're looking for equity. And to bring in equity in, we need to take away your perceptions of the kids. And your perception is with a name. And because might not know their ID number unless they're their principal and they're going to be sitting there with pulling up all the kids' ID numbers, which I doubt they'll do. So you got to think about that as you go forward. So let me scroll back. So the names do not have to be on the blind voting is not required. The name does not have to be there at the beginning because you can have two different measures, but on the profile sheet that you're filing that you're going to ask them to sign off on, it can be there. But you got to look at your systems. All right. And I'm going back up. I think I had a question from somewhere up here that I missed. Okay. So, and then going to Sheila's question, how do you look at students quantify, I can't even speak today. I'm so sorry, y'all. If you do not know they are. So basically you're just looking, you could do it in two phases. So there's nothing to say you can't do it in multiple phases of how you're looking at it as students, but then is everyone being equal in their thought process if they already know who they want walking in the door who've been tested. So I think you have to look at who you're looking at, and then having that conversation of this is where we've gone, and then now let's look at based on our select do it in a phase. So your first phase is just here's the numbers. Let's look at our cutoffs, look at our scores. These are the kids that would make it in just based on that. Then your next phase of, okay, so let's look at all of them now open-handedly. And so, and then that will also be a aha moment for you also when you look at your committee and when they're naysaying somebody or promoting someone that does not meet the categories. So I think you have to start thinking, let's look at a even keel. What language is there that prevents districts from making all PD counts as GT training? A district cannot make GT training. Send me that email, that question in the email, because there are parameters and there are standards for GT training that qualify. And if you go back to the PD Zoom meeting in that PDF, there's language on one of the slides that says what to qualify for best recommendations for a 6-hour update. If your regular training does not meet, if it's not a GT trained person, so they have their 30 hours, they have their master's degree, certificate, something with GT, and you have to remember, and they have to remember, what is good for all is not, and it might be good for all, and we're going to say that, but if it's intended for all students and not to serve your gifted and talented students, it is not a GT training. Now, if it's designed for GT students and you think this may be good for all students, that's a different statement. But we have to look at what is the qualifications, what's the intent, and if it's not there, no. Send me that question, I'll help you out. Just making- All right, we'll come back to your question in a minute. All right, all right, so your question lands right here. So as we think about your program options for the upcoming year, you got to think about your venue. Are you still going to be basically a um, at home learning, or are you going to be more moving towards a blended community of there's going to be some face-to-face impact at the campus? You know, it might be your 2 days on, 2 days off. You know, Friday is, you know, I'm thinking back to box scheduling. Friday is going to be, you know, just totally uh, the desanitizing the building uh, all, you know, Fridays. And so you got 3 days, you know, what are you doing? How does that look? Because you're going to have some kids who, as I said earlier, whose parents are not going to want, and they are not going to want, you know, some of our kids are like, I know that building is not clean. You know, we got to think about the gum under the seat. Um, where their fingers are going. And then I was just thinking, you know, bathroom break, how does that work? And then some of you are in closets. I just, you know, want to be honest. You got some of you got small classrooms. What does that look like for you? Do you have two kids in the room, or are you doing one-on-one teaching? How does that look when you think of 25% for your classroom or your services when you pull out a kid? Will you be able to pull out a kid? So we have to really start thinking, what does that look like? What are our learning opportunities going to vary up to as we dictate this new process as we go into? Are you doing more team teaching with the regular content, or are you providing more enrichment services? How we're going to, and if there's nothing else you can recommend the differentiated instruction and the depth complexity, especially for those who need to do their updates within that they can take those courses. And then talking about curriculum compacting, how can we look at this? And then that schedule is going to be the scary part. How do we look at that? So I'm looking at Marjorie's question statement. This may be a premature question to where you are in the presentation and clustering, especially in elementary with the possibly a merit pay on the horizon. How should we handle the argument that it is not fair to teachers to group GT students in a classroom? Will there be a requirement from TA on not having a GT alone? And I'm going to ask what you mean alone in a classroom when you are using an inclusion model. So are you talking one GT student alone in the classroom, or are you talking a whole GT class?
What I'm talking about is like, I call it the deck of cards. Everybody gets one. So that
Everybody
it's
gets
all,
one.
yeah, everybody gets one. And that tends to, with admin and teachers, they think that if we cluster the GT kids, well, they're getting all the high test scores. And so what if I don't get them? And how do we argue that everybody gets one? And so instead of clustering the kids, because when I brought it up with some senior staff, they go, well, that's not going to be fair to our teachers if we don't give everybody a GT kid or spread them out. If we cluster them or put them in classes together, we're going to give that teacher an edge on scores.
So we are coming out with guidance, and I will make sure that gets reviewed and updated sooner than later on cluster grouping and putting that out there. And then the current guidance that is available on the website is that we do say a group is 3 or more. So they just can't put two around. We do say a group is 3 or more. We are putting out guidance that will be coming out very soon. And as I said, I'll push that up the chain to ensure to really look at what does that look like. So I will do that today. I can't give you the full thing of it, but basically we're looking at how do we cluster group and looking at that. So I will make sure that is done. Yeah, but currently on the FAQ, we do say that a group for GT is 3 or more. Amy, is this to me, Monica, or is there another Monica in the chat? The PDF referred to relating to PDF. Oh no, the PDF is the PowerPoint that is posted on the resources page where you got the link for here. So one of our GT Tuesdays, we did talk about professional development, professional learning, but I will put that link once again back in here. So, and if I have time, if I remember, I will give you the language from there. Growth is still required, yes. All right. I'm just making sure I am up to date on your questions. And so, the hard part and the difficult part is looking at our work streams and then supporting our students and our teachers. And how does that look? I know that you are true advocates for your programs and your services, and that you're really pushing to make sure, even if you're giving out, the enrichment process, how to, support them in the regular services. I'm just going to say, keep up the good work, and keep pushing. Provide those social and emotional supports for your counselors, your teachers, and parents. At the end of this, I will provide you with some couple of links. Bright and Quirky is a couple of they've been putting out some good webinar series and some things on, especially with students with autism. But their social emotional. Castle has done. They do a Friday webinar on social and emotional learning and different components there. So I did put the link to that one, and then Cengage has been putting theirs out. Now, some of those they do have a fee for, but then others are free. And so I try to, when I get across one that is free, I send it out to my ESCs to share with you in your local. And then I try to put the link to the other ones here. Here's the other hard part as we look at this and as we move forward. How do you monitor student growth and academic success in this new world? Especially when they're pushing out work for all the students that does not address our students. So how are you? And you have to think about that. How can you advocate for your kids? Because their parents are out there. It's like, my kid is bored, I need something else, and they're hounding. How do you get those extra pieces out there? But then really gonna have to look for when the push for at this point in time is everyone's talking acceleration, pushing that out there. And when they talk acceleration, and I almost have a little cringe because they're talking about how do we get those students who are far behind up to date. And it's like, I'm talking about acceleration of, I got kids ready to move 5 yards in front of you, and you're not at their playing level. So how do we make sure that when they're thinking about how we're growing these kids? Because they have to also remember, if our kids fall behind, they have an impact on their results also, when our kids will have always been helping them to push forward. So how are you doing that? And then also, that parental updates, and your staff on what your resources, your options, and what you have available out there is always a helpful piece. So just consider how you're doing that, how you're communicating with them, and little shout outs, of what your program services are and going forward. And then professional learning, and then I will, before we get out of here, I will put that on there. So these are just some things, you got to think about. And I met with all the ESCs the other last week. Yeah, the meetings with melding. So basically, they will have pretty much all of the online trainings available, where a lot of others are having online training. I know a lot of you are moving your district trainings to online platforms, and being resourceful on how you do that. So think about how many have to get trained, how you're going to do that. You have other resources, but then how are you documenting? And especially, I think that documentation piece is way what always has been uh, our issue and our concern of how, especially when you have so many teachers in transit, they need to know, they need to keep up with their documentation and how they're doing that. So I'm going to put this list out on the website. I know that most of you know your ESC contact, uh, but I have put all of them together and their websites that are available out there. And so that you, if you want to go website browsing and to see what they have available on their resources, um, you can reach out to them, look at their pages, their materials. I have a great network of ESC leadership. They work together well and they are willing to share. So take that as an opportunity to get there to look at that. I know this is small, but I do have the PDF ready to load for that. Uh, on the TPSP standards project, we have about 10 students who have registered for the TPSP. I know that a few more of you are out there working on getting something submitted. Ask that you do that this week so that we can get the kids loaded up. I want to thank those panelists, reviewers who have signed up already to do that. And as we go forth with that, I see your question. We'll go back to there in a minute as we go forth. Let me write something. I got a couple of questions. All right. So, got a question on, does anyone have a good system for tracking GT hours for teachers and staff? Are you using Skyward or other systems? So Bridget is using Eduphoria. When I was within the district, we just had a on our secretary had built out a massive uh, Excel spreadsheet with everyone on it and everyone putting in their information. Uh, right, I'm looking. So if you turn into TPSP into Canvas courses, no, there is nothing wrong with that. I think just really thinking what works for you, and I will say if you do Eduphoria or Skyward, is there a way that you can always back it up to another system? Because if your district changes, you always got your backup. So I would just think of that. Uh, and we got some who's using the spreadsheet. So I'm going back because I think I had a couple other questions as we move forward here. Make sure I got everything. Right. I think. So, does anyone want to share what's going on in their district or have questions in the general, just about, take this time to, what are your thoughts on how you're going back into the school district, starting it back up to school, or if there's some general questions that we can field and kind of develop from there. Unmute yourself, anyone, or throw it in the chat. We can have a conversation. Or other questions. What are y'all doing out there? Okay. Is everybody tired? Ready for school? How many people are doing summer school? Please say no. No. Okay. I know. Tired. Yes. Yes. In a way, this could, you would think that this being at home, but all these meetings, I agree, the Zoom fatigue is real. This lockdown, I had to get a new uh, a situation. I'm really thinking a standing desk because it's like it's not working here. Um, so there's been a question out there. Someone screening this summer. I think some have started back, and yes, you're allowed to screen this summer. You're to basically can pretty much uh, restart. Looking at that and going forward. Yeah. Ooh, summer enrichment was canceled. I understand. Yes.
I had actually a question about that because since Governor Abbott just came out with his "you can have summer camps" thing yesterday, but like for us, it's kind of too late to plan for June. Is any district doing their like summer enrichment camps or whatever this summer?
Natalia ISD is considering the last week of July, first week of August as our summer boot camp, and it probably is going to be a blended environment. Most of our community, or about a third of the community, does not feel safe to send their kids no matter what time frame we have it.
Amarillo is going to have theirs at the end of July, but that's our normal timeline. And we've created kits that we're actually having parents pick up so we can do it virtual where the kids do it at home with their families.
For the kits and the virtual thing, are y'all charging like registration fees still, or?
We normally charge, but this year we're not charging because it's kind of a trial for us, a new format. So we're not going to order t-shirts or bags and things like that we normally have in our camps. And we're just going to do it free this year as a trial.
So if you don't mind my asking, like, where are y'all getting the funding for the little kits to send home at?
It's just out of our GT budget, but we don't have GT people in every school like a lot of other districts do. So our money is used differently.
Okay.
We are providing STC robotics via virtual learning, and we'll have like third graders this year that will be attending since it's really one of the first times that we do it. We're gonna have, this is like, this is the first time, so we're gonna see how it goes. We're gonna have about 80 students that attend, and we're gonna be sending them a kit home, and then of course, they have to return this kits back. So we're in the process of getting all the names of the students, getting STC to send out mail out the kits, and we'll see how it goes. But we're excited. We're innovative.
All right. I think someone put a link into a virtual camp invention option. Thank you very much. All right. So I hope everyone takes a moment to take a break. Remember, Monday is a holiday. So no Zoom family meetings either. So on GT Tuesdays, I was doing two thoughts. Maybe having a summer edition because I think there was a couple of questions of things that people wanted to discuss that might need to be addressed before school starts. But then looking at our 2020, going back to the same format, still with the alternating time 9 and 1, and then coming up with some topics. I just threw out a few there. I am open to your topics of suggestions of things we want to talk about. If you're wanting a, once a month GT's Tuesday, uh, or we could take a full summer vacation on this, I am open to either. I think what I was thinking for the summer edition was really just looking at, because I think someone in one of the earlier chats was asking about curriculum compacting. I was thinking program manual and then possibly financial accountability, looking at how you as a local district can state, um, if you want to do field trips or not field trips, what can you use your funds on, those things, looking at that. Uh, ooh, all right, Greg, I see you putting GT in your AP. All right. Someone wants Greg's putting GT in your AP, and he put that. All right. I'm writing it down. Ooh, okay. Full GT's education via distance learning. That distance learning is getting us. Yeah. GT versus dual credit. Okay. I see it. Well, here's the thing. For summer, as I said, 3 months, but for the school year, it's I probably need about 12, definitely, to go for it. But yeah, you are the ones who want to hear, wants to, as I say, I try to bring in when I can, uh, you as my experts from the field, what's going on, and answer your questions. And the first year was really just going into, let's look at the state plan, let's get this rolled out, and the changes that was there, and just having that conversation. But as we go forward, it can take a little different meld, a different field. Um, as we move into the next, as we move forward, you know, into some different realms, we can actually touch some things we talked about last year if you want to talk about that. But, those videos will be there and hopefully they've been improved. But then, what else is going on in your world that you may have a need for? And that's my goal, is to meet your needs, provide you with a service that can help you. So that's what we're looking at. So GT in high school, we got it. TPSP has great units to use. Oh, I think that was the question on someone. Okay, so someone was asking about what GT curriculum and resources would you all recommend? And then someone recommended the TPSP. A lot of districts do use TPSP as their curriculum because it does already have the TEKS and the college career readiness standards already embedded into them. And you can have that flexibility of either grade levels choosing a specific task or allowing the teachers to choose a task. If you're new to it, this is how I always recommended going forward. Either you limited yourself to one or two as a full class going into it, and compared to allowing all of your kids to choose one, because that's going to be overwhelming. And then I think it's overwhelming to do one every 6 weeks, but I know some districts that do it every 6 weeks. Um, I think so you need to think, how do you want to do it every uh, once a year, twice a year, the 6 weeks, or how do you want to vary that up? And because you can split them up in as many ways as you want to with those lessons. So, um, but we can also have that as a conversation piece on as a I didn't put that as a topic, but as a topic, there's great training out there on those. So that's a thought question. All right. Ooh. So here, I'm looking at a guide on keeping track on GT training. We can definitely talk a little bit more on that because, as I said, and some of you do know that I came from Dallas ISD, so she had a main spreadsheet, and it was the onus on those teachers to submit those trainings to the office, and then she would just update them periodically into their system. I really think you need to think about what are your capabilities, because I'm thinking if you have, I don't know, if you got a Google sheet that you can upload things into, they can upload their own stuff into it, and you get this flag that it's there. Some I know it's not even on you. It's really the campus administrator that has to keep that documentation at the campus level, and then maybe submit that up to you. How does that work? Those are some little conversation pieces that we can have. They can, and turn those certificates, to electronically. I would, at this point in time, I would even there's a gnat in here killing me. Even beforehand, making sure they don't have to have a hard copy. But if you want hard copies, that's use a district. But yes, it can be maintained electronically and kept electronically in part of your system. Now, and when you make up these systems and you make up your procedures, I'm going to put one caveat out there. Let teachers know that how long will you maintain their records once they leave the district. Because you got some teachers who leave the district because depending on where you are, they hopscotching, but they come back at some point. So is it a 2-year, 3-year, or once they're gone, it's out the system? So you got to think, how do you do that? Because either they're hopscotching and thinking somebody's keeping it when they should be really keeping it, and then they're going to email you, 2 years down the road, some 5 years down the road, where's my certificate? And I'm going to go ahead and go here to questions. So they need to maintain. That's the hardest. Because I get questions about certificates and I send them to you or the regional, but because I know basically there is no one, there is no state, unless you or the district is the main keeper of that. But that individual teacher, I know where mine are. They're in Austin, Texas, in a box where my certificates are when I first started out. So I need to actually put them on a hard drive, but I haven't done that so far. But they need to make sure, because when they start transferring and moving around and whatsoever, we don't have records of that. And most times you're purging them from your system. You don't have records of that. Dallas ISD may have my records. I don't know. But, that's something you got to think about is get them, have them email it. At this point, every copier in a building probably has a scan and email capability. They can do that. Or there's a scanner that they can send it and just upload it into your system. If you want to have a hard drive, a cloud space in your district, not your personal, not your laptop or your desktop, but in the district's little system, drop those little certificates over there, save up their space. But think of it that way. Other questions? Or did I miss some while I was in the chat? All right. New one down at the bottom. Okay. Other questions, wonderings. We're just a little over 2 o'clock. So if there's no more questions, wondering. Because I know the fatigue is there. So as I mentioned earlier, here are some things that I have come across um, as I've been doing some things. So Castle is having it's actually coming up. They just uploaded this document on leveraging social and emotional learning as they reopen and renew our school communities. So I put a link to that PDF there. The Fordham Institute puts out a nice, pretty much everyday kind of communication. And so there's a blueprint for back to school, some things that you might want to consider there. And then, as I said, I attended a autism workshop. So that's if you want to replay that you can see that link there. And I will try to put these links in the also elsewhere. And then I don't know how many of you knew TCEA, which is our Texas Computer Educator Association, something to that effect. They gave out free membership at the beginning of this process. So they did did a lunch and learn on digital field trips. And that's something that I think, we can easily build out to include into your enrichment activities or something and build a lesson around that. So I added that one in. So that's that. All right, everyone. So this is the end. I hope everyone has a great day, a great week. I'm going to make one request that you take the weekend off and remember that Monday is a holiday and not work on Monday, and rest and relax. Some of you I will see tomorrow because I'm visiting with another ESC. And then yes, I will be tag it. Yes, we will be tagging Leadership Conference June 8th through the 11th. I will be there. And so otherwise, have a great summer vacations. I know it's going to be kind of hard to staycation because we've been here at home, but do something a little bit different. Here is my website, email, if you reach me, and then I'm going to put it in the chat. If you need to make a phone, you need to call me because some of you. So this is the direct line to my office. So if you need to call or if you need to email and say call, I will call if you have further questions. So I am still reachable. So, but I want to say thank you for running with me on this endeavor. I look forward to seeing you again and talking with you. So, and hopefully this will be posted today. So have a great day, everyone.
Hey, Monica.
Cherie.
Hey.
Yes.
That training we vetted at the last meeting back in February, and
yes.
then you asked for some input.
Yes.
Any timeline on that?
So it is with the copy editors right now.
Okay.
And it should be ready for you within a couple of weeks.
Okay.
Definitely
Great.
for June.
Thank you. Okay. Thank you.
No problem. These will be posted on the GT Education webpage, the resources page, where you found the link for this, unless someone shared it to you. But I will put it there. All right. Bye, everyone.
Thank you, Monica. We'll see you tomorrow.
Yes, you will.
Thank you, Monica, for your extra attention for my questions. I look forward.
Thank you. Culver, I'm gonna find your email because I thought I answered it, but if I didn't, I'm sorry.
Oh no. It's been an ongoing struggle with trying to walk that tightrope between what the bosses want
Yes.
and what, by law we have to do. And
Yes.
on paper, you can make pretty much anything,
Yeah.
count. And that's the problem.
Okay. Gotcha. All right. I will take care of it.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.